You will become Elden Lord. May you take the throne.
I have just got out of playing Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on the Switch 2, and I have some bad news for those of you hoping for good performance in handheld mode, because the performance is not good.
This world is in dire need of repair.
So unfortunately, we weren't allowed to record any footage while we were playing on the Switch 2, but I'm going to talk through my experience with the handheld mode and just let you know how it handled on the Switch 2 and where the problems arose. Because the queue behind me is all for Hollow Knight Silksong, no one is actually playing Elden Ring 2 Tarnished Edition on the Switch yet. So we had to start from the very beginning, going through the menus, creating a character. I picked the warrior with the two swords, and then we entered into the tutorial area. Inside the church, the game ran fairly smoothly, but as soon as I exited out into the open area where the Grafted Scion tutorial boss is, everything started to chug really badly. Spinning the camera around from left to right really showed the frame rate drops. Standing still, it was fine. The pixel count looked great. It actually looks really detailed and really good on the small Switch 2 screen. I gave the game a pause, went into the menus to see if there was a graphics or performance mode that I can choose from. There wasn't. It seemed to be just one standard mode with HDR switched on. So the whole game was in HDR. Again, looks lovely lighting wise. It was just any type of camera movement, it began to chug. And this, you know, if you played Elden Ring before, camera movement is very important. You're doing a lot of circling, you're doing a lot of dodging, and you want that high frame rate when you are attacking bosses. Coming up to the Grafted Scion itself, I was pretty much instantly killed because the button placement on the Switch 2 is slightly different to the PlayStation 5, which I normally play it on. Obviously, the Nintendo button placement is always slightly different, but when you have a game like Elden Ring, which is complex enough already, trying to figure out what button did what on the Switch 2 was very confusing. I tried to stash one of my swords and dual wield it, two-hand it, but it took me about 3 minutes to work out what did what. I was, going for my Estus flasks, which I didn't have yet, and just got very confusing. I finally managed to sort it out though, and got killed by the Grafted Scion, and went into the early tutorial place in Limgrave. Now, the underground section of Limgrave starts off with that section where you can drop down into the tutorial area. I skipped that because I wanted to see how the game performed when you went up the lift and out into Limgrave. Making my way up that lift and then sitting by my first sight of grace was fine. It felt normal and I had no complaints there. But again, as soon as I opened up those double doors and entered into Limgrave and you see the Erd tree in the background, it started to chug. Spinning the camera from left to right really showed how much the Switch 2 was struggling rendering that massive environment. From there, I ran up the hill to the church. I spoke to Carle the merchant. Around this area, the performance wasn't too bad. Again, sneaking through the woods towards the site of grace where you meet the Finger Maiden and get the ring to summon Torrent was okay because there was lots of foliage and I was moving slowly through the field. The performance didn't feel as bad there, but jumping onto Torrent once I got him and running through the middle of that town that's right by that site of grace just felt so sluggish and jarring. And that was about as much of the game as we played in handheld mode because we had to move on to something else. But yeah, those of you looking forward to a smooth performing Elden Ring on handheld are going to be very disappointed. It may perform better in docked mode. Again, we didn't get to try it docked, so I can't comment on that. But for any more information on Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on Switch 2, make sure you stay tuned to IGN.
Can't you? The rays of grace that guide you through your burden.